Hey everybody, what's going on? It's James here with Crypto Common Sense, and I have your Bitcoin/cryptocurrency market update for Friday, August the 28th. Before I jump into the content for this video, please do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up button, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and keep an eye out on the 1st. I wouldn't subscribe now, but on the 1st, make sure you check the description or after the 1st of the month. You can check the description for a link to join the Patron for just $7 a month. The reason I say don't join now is because they bill you. Patron itself bills you for the entire month, no matter what day you join. So if you join today, the 28th, they're going to bill you for August, and then on the 1st of September, they're going to turn around and bill you again. So that wouldn't, it's not worth it for 3 days. But, if you're watching the video after the 1st, or if you happen to remember after the 1st, make sure you check it out. It's just $7 a month. Gives you access to a lot more frequent updates. Not just videos, but also post charts and things like that in there as well. Okay, so let's talk about what's happening with Bitcoin. The first thing I want to talk about is the fact that even now, after being in this market for, I guess, going on, well, about 3 years, a little over 3 years, 3 years and 3 months, I guess, you still see people saying that, oh, TA doesn't work. You can't predict where this market is going. It's, it's all a casino and all this kind of stuff. And guys, TA works, right? Nothing's 100%. And that's where you get these people who will say, oh, TA doesn't work. It's because maybe they took a trade and lost money, or maybe because one time TA didn't work for them or whatever. But it definitely does work. Now, I would highly recommend learning, technical analysis. Whether you learn it from me, whether you learn it from somebody else, doesn't matter. But I would definitely recommend learning it. So here's an example, right? So this is something that I posted in my Discord back on the 25th of August, so just about 3 days ago. And this is when Bitcoin had come down and slammed into that 11.1 area. And what I had said then was that I felt like this had broke out of its rising wedge, but it was actually forming a parallel channel. And what I was looking for was some type of bounce up to around 11.6, a pullback down to the bottom of the channel, and then if Bitcoin wanted to move up, I was looking for some type of move up toward 12K from there. Now, this is still a bearish chart. I want to be very clear about this. When I was talking about 12K, that's because it's the golden pocket from around 12.4 down to this low. So I was looking, hey, there might be some kind of pump and then further downside. And then if we just click this arrow and look at what actually happened, keep an eye on this, right? I said a W, 11.6, back down and then up. Okay, here you go. So there's your drop, there's your pump. Where did it stop at? Right here it stopped around 11.525. Right here it threw a wick all the way up to where? 11.6. Right back into the line, and now it's bouncing off of it. Now, does this go all the way to 12K? I don't know, right? I'll have to watch it and kind of see. But again, it's almost uncanny sometimes. You'll draw something up and be like, yeah, I think this is what this market's going to do, and then it does exactly what you were looking for. So yesterday, when that dropped down to that line, a lot of people were getting bearish. I was actually on Twitter for a few minutes, first time in quite a while yesterday. And I say a few minutes, I mean 10 minutes maybe max. And I saw a lot of the people posting bearish things, right? And here I am a bear. I'm still a bear. I'm a macro bear. And yet I longed it, right? I longed it when it hit support yesterday. Which is, it's always ironic to me because how is the bear going long when the bulls are suddenly getting scared, right? But that's TA, right? It doesn't matter that I'm bearish. It doesn't matter that I think Bitcoin still has a lot of correcting to do. The correct play yesterday was to long that. The chart said it was going to bounce. Now, could have kept going down, but there was obvious stop losses, right? It wasn't difficult to pick a stop loss on that, so risk reward was there, and I took a long, right? So definitely, it just boggles my mind. It really does. Like, you'll have people who are involved in these markets for months, years, and 3, 4, 5 years into the market, they still haven't bothered to learn TA. They're still guessing what the market is going to do versus trying to base it off of some type of chart. So if you are serious and you do want to learn technical analysis, there are, just loads and loads of free resources. If you want to go out there and spend your time on it, you can find all this stuff for free. I promise you can. If you want something a little more organized, you want something that's a little more systemized, there's a link down in the description. You can join my trading course. But again, I'm not telling you that I'm going to teach you a bunch of stuff you can't find for free, because you can find really good TA stuff for free if you look hard enough, right? It's just a matter of piecing it all together. One thing you get with my stuff that you won't get for free is you get some of the setups that I personally created that I trade with, right? Which are worth a lot of money in my opinion, but that's, that's up to each user to decide. So anyway, I wanted to point that out. TA works. Learn it for me, learn it for somebody else. I don't care. Prefer you learn it for me, but learn it. It will make your life a lot easier, not just in crypto, but in stocks and precious metals and Forex, right? And you can develop a skill set that will pay you, if you get good at it, for the rest of your life, right? It's freedom. It really is a level of freedom that you probably won't ever have with a job or a business for that matter. And I've had jobs, I've had a business for, a decade, and all of those things depend on all these outside factors. They depend on customers. They depend on the business staying open. If you're working for somebody else, you got to depend that they know what they're doing and they're going to keep the doors open. And I used to work for a really large company, one of the largest companies in the world, and it was a union job. And I always thought that I was safe, and I thought nothing could happen. And so I was, I lived life on the high horse and spent money as fast as I earned it, and thought, who cares? I know I got a paycheck coming in. And then one day they came in and said, hey, everybody who started after XYZ date, we're cutting your pay 40%. Didn't matter what kind of job you had done. Didn't matter whether you were good or bad. All that mattered was if you started after a certain date, they cut everybody's pay 40%. It was part of a deal that the union had negotiated, right? They threw us under the bus to get the longer term employees better benefits and better pay and things like that. So there I was sitting in a job, working next to somebody, doing the exact same job they were doing, but they're making 40% more than me because I started 2 weeks earlier. So obviously I quit that job, and that's when I decided to become a full-time entrepreneur back in 2011. Started my business and never looked back. But my point being is you're never secure, right? But if you learn to trade, you learn technical analysis, these markets will always be here. They might be up, they might be down, but you'll always have a way to put money in your pocket if you really learn it and learn it well. Okay, so let's talk about Bitcoin. What's Bitcoin doing right now? What's going on with this market? Well, before I even talk about Bitcoin, the one thing that I want to look at is the stock market. I keep a close eye on this because it's had a rough 12 hours or so. Okay, the stock market has been putting really, really clean flips in lately. And when I say flip, I'm talking about flipping old resistance to support. So for example, right here, and posted this over in my Discord. Really easy long to take on the Dow, right? Moved up off of it really nicely. Then right here, you had another case of where it was trying to flip support, resistance to support. Really, I call it down here, right? Somewhere in this area here. Get that straight. So I would watch this line and see what's happening, because this is getting a pretty nasty pullback here. It's not really nasty like by crypto standards. I think it's like 1% or something, 0.72%. But if it starts to take out these supports, it could be a sign that this thing is trying to finally top out a little bit. And we do have some really nasty bearish divergence. This is actually a triple or a double, depending on how you call it, divergence, right? You have the high back here in early August. Here's your high on price. You have a lower high followed by a higher high, and you have yet another lower high followed by yet another higher high. So you basically have this long running divergence on it's 4 hours, not a daily, 4 hour chart. So obviously crypto, we've seen it's been moving quite a bit with the stock market. If the stock market decides to have some type of pullback or some type of correction or worse, then I think we have to be aware that crypto might follow suit with that. Okay. Now that being said, when I zoom out to the daily picture on the stock market, we had that rising wedge that was trying to form. We have broke north of it now, and this almost looks like a bullish retest at the top of that. And also, we broke north of this symmetrical triangle type of shape on RSI, and it did come down right there, and that doesn't look like that is a bullish retest, right? That's a place to get long on the stock market. Doesn't mean you want to stay long for very long, but it was a place to get long, and it did move up almost 2% from there, right? That being said, same deal. We got this high back here at 77 RSI. Here's our high in price. Now our RSI is topping out around 74.5. We have a higher high in price. So this is not yet confirmed, but this is, a potential bearish divergence on the daily chart, okay? So a couple of things to watch there. If you zoom out a little bit more, we had a daily gap on this thing up around this level, and it got dangerously close, but it's not yet filled that in. So maybe it throws up another wick, fills that in, and then maybe that's the end of this rally. Who knows, right? But worth keeping an eye on. I have not looked at the NASDAQ today to see what it's doing. I don't see anything in the daily chart that jumps out at me. Let's see, 4-hour chart. We have RSI making a series of lower highs. Prices moving sideways more than anything. Slight divergence there, so could get some type of pullback there. And real quick look at the S&P 500. So the S&P 500, same type of deal. Now, guys, what I want to point out though, and don't forget this, one of the reasons that this stuff concerns me so much is if we do get a sudden pullback over the next 2 or 3 days before the end of August, what you have to remember is that's going to pull this RSI back down under this monthly divergence, right? This is monthly bearish divergence. See that? There's your high in RSI, lower high, higher high, higher high, lower high, right? That's really, really bad divergence on a monthly chart. So if it pulls back underneath this line of resistance, that's going to really make me lean heavily towards some type of correction at the minimum. I don't see that on the NASDAQ, at least not as much. Nope, I don't want to erase those. Those are my daily lines. But we do have bearish divergence. This one's a little iffy though, because here's the way I look at this, right? So you have your divergence back here where you got your price making a higher high. And yes, this is higher high. Yes, this is lower than this, but you also had a higher high here. So this was really the triple divergence right here. And then you had your big pullback, and now this is actually a higher high on price than this and a higher high than this. So to me, this is not really a bearish divergence. This was the bearish divergence back here. And of course, if you shorted it there on the close of January, then you could have went underwater a little over 8%. If you weren't stopped out, maybe you rode that down for 26%, right? So that's kind of what I'm seeing there. And then on the monthly for the Dow, yeah, let's see. This line keeps getting moved. I don't know why my line is moving around. It's so weird. Anyway, we'll just redraw it, put it where it goes, something like that. And you can see that it's just barely peeking above that line right now. But again, if it pulls back and closes underneath it, especially if it closes right at resistance, then I'm going to be very bearish on the stock market, and kind of collateral damage. I think we could see crypto take that hit. Okay, so let's jump over to crypto. Enough about stocks. I'm not going to talk about the weekly chart right now because the week is not closed, so who cares? This is a 3-day chart. This is a brand new candle here, so we don't care so much about it. I do care about this red candle, and if you guys remember in the last video, I was talking about this green line. If we start to get a pullback, I wanted to see what happened when it got to that green line. You can see here that yesterday, when it did drop, when it was tagging down that bottom line of the parallel channel, it was also tagging this green line, right? This is from yesterday. It was tagging right on that green line on the 3-day chart. It's another reason that I took that long. It's pulled up off of it a little bit, and now it's trying to curl up. Is this bullish? I doubt it. I doubt it. I think this is probably the local top, but we'll see. This is, like I said, a brand new candle, so this green candle doesn't matter much, but this did close above that green line, so it's technically still in an uptrend on the the larger picture on the 3-day RSI, right? We haven't taken out any lows back here or anything like that. If I look at a daily chart, this one's interesting. Okay, let me just look at the price action first, and then we'll talk about the oscillator. So what we have was we had this rising wedge, which is this line here. We'll make it red so it stands out. And this line here, we had a rising wedge. It broke out of it. It came up for a bearish retest, was a great place to get short, and then it dumped. Now this rising wedge has a target down around 10.1. But Bitcoin is kind of playing tricks, and it's being a little sneaky right now, because if you take the rising wedge off of there and you draw this up, and again, we can just draw a parallel channel so that you can see how this works. So if I connect here and connect here and then pull back to here, that kind of predicts where the support's going to be, and there it is. Bam, support up off of it, bam, support, up off of it, right? We had these very clean flips from support to resistance, broke through it, turned into resistance, broke through it, turned into resistance, broke through it, turned into resistance. So obviously this is the first level that I'm interested in. I want to see if it can break above and close above 11.5. And if so, what I'm looking for is a move back up to the golden pocket, which would be right around in this area here, around 11.957 to 12K, right? So it would look like this, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up there, and then maybe that move down, right? That's what I'm looking for. Now, whether I get it, who knows, right? We'll have to wait and see. So that's very interesting. The other thing that's interesting, and this is very bullish in nature in my opinion, is if you look at the RSI on this thing, so we had this upward sloping green line and it broke through it, right? So I'm going to leave it there just in case it tries to get some kind of bearish retest on it, but I'm not really that worried about it right now. But the downward sloping red line, it never did get touched a third time, so they're not that important. What's important to me right at the moment is this purple line. Now you might be going, what in the heck is this purple line, James? Well, a lot of times if you're trading RSI, what a lot of people don't know is 50 is kind of the line in the sand. Right around 50, a lot of people consider anything above 50 to be bullish in nature, anything below 50 to be bearish in nature. And if you go back to like the market last year in 2019, you'll see that that level was pretty important, right? It would get above it and come down to it and bounce off of it, come down to it, bounce off of it, so on and so forth. So for about these 4 or 5 months here, that level's really well respected. Not near as good as the bear market box type of stuff on my other charts, but still something that I want to be aware of, right? Came down here in April of this year, respected. Again in April. In May, respected. Rode all along it right here. Did have a little break below it here, but right back above it. And now we're putting in a very, very clear W. Now, is it a W? No. It's not a W because this day has not closed. This has to actually move up above this neckline and close above it. If this starts to fall apart, this will just look something like this. It'll look like this, and then it'll just keep going down. It won't look like there was ever a W there. But I want to watch it and want to see, because if it puts in a W on top of that line, it is a bullish signal. And again, doesn't mean that we're suddenly going to 15K, 16K. We're not talking macro picture. We're talking more about like, hey, can we get up to that golden pocket, right? So we'll see. But the daily does look very interesting to me. And until we lose this level of support down here, I'm not really going to be looking for shorts unless we get to the golden pocket, right? Then I might start looking at shorts depending on what the charts look like, which, by the way, is also around the midpoint of the channel. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm seeing on Bitcoin. There's really not that much to say. I mean, that's it. If we zoom in one more time frame, again, just more reason to take that long yesterday. We did have all those reasons I already talked about, and then we also had this really nice bullish divergence right there in the close of that candle, which closed at right around 1 p.m. my time, right? And since then, that sucker is up about 2.5% or so. Okay. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Please remember that I am just some guy sitting in a spare bedroom. Nothing in the video is financial advice. Nothing in the video is trade advice. You should always do your own due diligence and seek out professional investment advice from a licensed financial advisor before making any type of investment in cryptocurrency, the stock market, or precious metals. This is James with Crypto Common Sense reminding you to please trade safe.